Welcome everybody to another edition of
We've lost Mac.
Man down.
Push to Talk.
I was right. Listen a
Hey
minute.
guys, we have a pretty fucking full show today. There is a bunch of people. In actual fact, I think I need to adjust some stuff because there's even more people who have come in since the start of the show, and the actual the people the list on Discord has actually gone off the screen, so I need to sort that out. But
we're being degraded by AT people. It's
yes,
horrible.
yes. We have CCP Aurora and CCP Swift here on the show. Everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
And we also have some newcomers to the show. John Stargazer, hey.
Hello there.
As well as Ringnut Cross.
G'day, mates.
As well as the regulars, Arendis.
Huh? What?
Arendis is here, Caleb is here, Dawn's
Hey, guys.
here, Dirk's here, as well as Sothrasil.
Actually, before we get started, I have a really important question for Dirk.
Oh dear.
See, Dirk, Dawn is here, so do we have to obey the 20 minutes before we can talk about Eve rule?
Not today, because CCP Aurora is on something of a deadline. So
Okay, I wanted to make sure. Because
we are not enforcing the Dawn rule today.
Okay, good.
If I have to explain to my parents why they're stranded at an airport, I will blame you.
Well, yeah. Typically, we would do a 20-minute segment on non-Eve stuff and just do a bit of a catch-up, talk about some food things, but I think
Usually titled "Making Dawn Wait."
Yeah, that is half of the fun. Yes. But I think, given that we've got the CCPers here, we've got General and Wingnut with
I
us.
think that's a good call, yeah.
Let's. I suppose we should just dive straight into it today. Earlier this week, we saw a video on YouTube. It was a bit of a vague video to start with, and then in the last kind of like 10 or 15 seconds, it showed that we were getting the AT back for its 17th iteration. So straight in with Aurora and Swift. How are you guys feeling about organizing a new Alliance tournament? How's that journey been? Let's talk about that for the viewers a little bit.
At least for my part, the journey has been really long. I've been working on this for well over a year. So it's really cool to... Basically, since I started, like as a previous Alliance tournament pilot, I've been like trying to sneakily bring it back. Kind of, working in the background, dusting off old tools that weren't being used by anyone else, and brought back the Alliance Open, all of that sort of thing. So it's really cool to be able to announce it finally. I know the announcement didn't quite hit the spot last week, but it's still going to be a super cool event. So I'm excited.
I mean, you mentioned real quick there about the announcement not hitting the spot. There was some controversy about the YouTube countdown.
Yes. So
do you want to briefly address that?
Sure, I can briefly address that. So we actually wanted to underplay the announcement. I know that might not seem incredibly obvious given the way it played out on Thursday, but we wanted to just like put a blank video up, and not hype it up at all. We didn't put any like a whole lot of social media or anything out on it. I wanted to just drop the video kind of like without any premiere timer, but the premiere timer was brought up in discussions, and I was like, okay, yeah, sure. And so the premiere got added, and it generated way more hype than we were prepared for, I think, with that announcement. The original idea was that like we would just kind of drop this video and let it like secretly trickle through the community. But it turns out the entire community was kind of looking at it, and a whole bunch of people were like projecting every hope and dream they had ever had onto this blank announcement, which meant that all of those people who projected, it's going to be the end of scarcity and they're going to give me $500 and a pony, it's a lot of people set themselves up to be really let down. So I think we definitely learned a lesson about the power of a blank premiere for future communications.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I didn't anticipate that this would be the announcement that. Well, I want to say real quick that the tournament community has been talking about an announcement from CCP Aurora for a while. You've been dropping hints for a couple months, and I didn't expect that this was going to be it. I'll be honest, with the blank YouTube thing and everything. I didn't expect that it was going to be the AT. I thought it was going to be something different. And then as I was watching the video, I've got to say, with the commentary of the video, I thought that we would maybe talking about like a subsystem revamp or something for a while there, and then it shifted.
I wrote the script for that video, so I intentionally kept it super vague until the end. So
it worked.
Yeah, some of the language, like talking about like carrying flags and flags falling and all of that sort of thing, it does kind of sound like SOV. But it also does apply to the Alliance tournament in terms of, victories and flags and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, the video is just chock full of like Easter eggs as well for Alliance tournament pilots. A lot of the scenes are from previous Alliance tournament finals, and in fact, the voiceover, which we very tactically call Scottish voice guy, is one of the voices that has been used like previously in Alliance tournament, like hype videos and ads. So there's probably like the Alliance tournament, like diehard fans that when they the instant that they heard someone speak, they knew it was going to be for the Alliance tournament, and everyone else had to wait for the last like 10 seconds to see the Alliance tournament thing fly in your face. So watching the hype live was very interesting because like the YouTube chat, like scrolling so fast, people were trying to figure out what it was, and then just you see the same like 20 or 30 people just typing AT is back, AT is back. It was really fun.
Yeah. I think if we had been a bit more silent about that announcement, it would have worked really well in that format. But it wasn't. That video wasn't designed to be quite such a big, like everybody's watching at the same time type of thing. So I think it's still a super cool video. I've watched it like 20 times here, just because it hypes me up. But yeah, the premiere. Too powerful.
Yeah, I also love it. Like the group that I was with at the time, we watched it when it first popped up, and we're just talking in Discord, and we're like, some of the guys have been around since the older ATs, and they're like, wait a minute. And then the next person goes, wait a minute. And then you see here, as the video goes on, people start to go, wait a second, hold on. And by the end, we're all like, holy crap. And one guy's screaming, I called it. I'm like,
I would like to say that I think it's the most Eve thing ever when Aurora's whole push and marketing of this thing ends up being a mistake between plan and premiere buttons on YouTube.
Oh no! We did do the premiere on purpose. It was the original plan had been to drop it silently, and then we decided to change course to the premiere, and that turned out to be a maybe not the best call for this particular video.
It certainly generated attention.
That it did. They do say that any attention is good attention. I don't always buy into that. I like positive attention much more than I like negative attention, but it's true. I mean the Alliance tournament server and stuff, like it's exploded. We have over 1,000 members in that server, and the rules haven't even been announced yet. So like the actual response to it has been great, and there's a lot of alliances that have been motivated to join that maybe they wouldn't have heard about it if the announcement wasn't quite that size. So it's actually looking like we might get a ton of signups this year, which is going to be really interesting to figure out how we're going to handle that in the feeders. But that remains to be seen.
Yeah, I mean, just to talk about my reaction to the video, but by the end of it, I had a massive grin on my face. I was, I mean, obviously, Sothrasol and I worked with you on the Anger Games, and we've got General Stargazer who worked on both the Anger Games and the Alliance Open with us, and with EVNT. Wingnut Cross has been a tournament guy forever. I'm sure we all had a very similar reaction of just being like, yes, this is great. Apparently, we have sound. People in Twitch chat telling us that we have sound.
We have sound but no video.
So it's the reverse of earlier, is it?
All right, it's a radio show, but still,
it's weird, but you know.
Radio. We can do Eve Radio. So
Mac has managed to be anti-Eric.
Yeah.
WRX 101.3.
It has literally nothing to do with me.
Okay,
it has everything to do with Richard Branson's Virgin Media telecommunications company.
Oh, Tiamat died.
A Tiamat died.
A Tiamat died recently?
Today.
Tiamat died today. Well, okay. So, I mean, that's a great segue, actually. Let's talk a little bit about Alliance tournament ships. If a Tiamat has died today, and yeah, literally, like, just
it got Von Hold. It literally got Von Hold. We were talking about
Von Hold again.
Always.
Damn it.
I mean, I saw basically every time an AT frigate dies, like all of a sudden, like the less than 10 small gang Discord just like lights up with people pinging Von Hole, and they're like, story time, how'd it happen? That guy is amazing. It's really impressive.
Von Hold in low set. That's a kind of expensive Tiamat. Like he's got a bunch of abyssal stuff on there that it will be quite expensive.
And
alongside
T3Cs on it.
Yeah, that's funnily enough. Funnily enough, there's actually a Hydra killing this Tiamat. So
Hydra, I didn't notice.
There's a Hydra from Northern Coalition, piloted by Grease Payne, killing this Tiamat about 5 minutes ago or so. So on that note, let's talk about prize ships a little bit. Obviously, we haven't seen tournament prize ships for the Alliance Open and the Anger Games. You know, we haven't seen prize ships at all since 2018. How are you talking about prizes for this AT?
Sure. So from the announcement, there was a rather long section in there that I wrote on the plans for Alliance Tournament prize ships. So this is, I know it's a sensitive topic because these ships are, you know, highly valuable. They hold a really special place in people's heart, and we want to respect that as best we can. But with the tournament coming back, you know, I'm trying to set it up in such a way that I have the most steady baseline I possibly can get in order to run this tournament in perpetuity, however that word is pronounced.
That's the correct pronunciation.
Yes. So that was where that whole section came from. So what we're looking to do is start bringing. We're basically looking at like a 10+ year rotation. So once a ship is released, we won't re-release it for another 10 years. And we go back starting with Alliance Tournament 7, and we can start bringing back those ships. So they won't be brought back just like wholesale. We're looking to hopefully tweak them slightly. So that would be things like different names, possibly even different like skills. We could actually tweak the bonuses of the ships if we so wanted, so they would be different than their previous classes. And we're looking to they all have like the number of the Alliance tournament on the side. They'll probably get like a generic like Alliance tournament logo emblazoned on them, which would be a little bit different. So they'll still be technically uniques, but they'll use the same hulls and colors and stuff as the previous ones. And it just saves us a lot of effort. It doesn't stop us from making new ships if we so choose, but we're broadcasting this a year ahead of time so that if we decide we do need to bring them back, we have that go ahead. So dev time is always just super, super tight, and you need to make like a really strong business case every time. And sometimes the Alliance tournament just might not make it in versus other features that are being heavily worked on. So I want to be able to put on the tournament without these things being blockers, which is where this new policy comes from.
Yeah, so, it's a really genius, a genius way for Aurora to make sure that the Alliance tournament can exist year after year, because it's not conditional on any other dev time or anything like that. So let's say next year, the devs are like, okay, well, we made you these ships last year. We don't necessarily have the time this year. Maybe in a couple months, the Alliance tournament won't have to hinge on that anymore. So we can just have Alliance Tournament 18 without having to rely on other people.
Yeah, so I do want to quickly circle back to this year's prize ships, because you did say in the devlog that there would be prize ships real quick, but I do want to ask really quickly, does that also then apply to the tournament prize skins, the victory skins that we've seen historically? Would we see a rotation in those? Because obviously in the last year or so, we've done this yearly segment where player-run tournaments will also have access to those victory skins. I mean, if there's going to be a rotation on those, that would be interesting to know for the future.
No rotation on those is currently planned. So we're looking at continuing to make a set of skins for each tournament to go forward. There's some conversation about like maybe we can do something to just kind of bulk make them so that we have the next 20 years worth of prizes already set, which should be pretty cool. That way we don't have to worry about making those requests of art every year. And sometimes when you're already doing a thing, it's just easier to do it a little bit more instead of bouncing between projects. So we're not going to go back and you're not going to get like the prize skins that were previously given away. Another part of with the tournament changes and the prizes is that we've been very much like the Alliance Open and the Anger Games, giving out these prize skins for additional events which CCP is supporting for tournaments. So there's a couple more ways for people to get them. Maybe you couldn't make one event, and it allows us to support the player-run events without too much hassle by being able to distribute those skins for those as well. And they make for really sweet prizes. So
they are very cool prizes. I ended up with one of those skins from the Goonswarm team because I was sponsoring them a little bit, and I'm very happy to have that in my skin collection from just the Anger Games recently. And I mean, we had our prize payout, and I think that was a historically quick prize payout for the Anger Games.
Yeah, it happened in less than 24 hours.
You're welcome.
We do very much appreciate your efficiency there, Aurora.
Also, Dirk getting one of the skins. Cough, cough, collusion.
I sponsored a single team. Go away, Wingnut.
I'm just going to point out that General Stargazer was actually the one who ran all of the matches for the Goon team.
Yeah, we discussed it for a little bit of impartiality. I was the referee for all of the Goons matches just to make sure that there was nothing suspicious going on.
So how much do they pay you?
Not enough.
Yeah, I know, right? It's never enough.
2 skins.
I mean, talking about that, obviously we're talking about the AT, but let's talk a little bit about the last year of tournaments. General, you've got experience across both tournaments. Wingnut, I think you've commentated for both of them as well, right?
Both what, sorry?
Both tournaments, the Alliance Open and the Anger Games in the last year.
Actually, I've commentated for 3 tournaments, the 5v5s, the Alliance Open, and the Anger Games.
And the 5v5s. Okay, so, I mean, have you guys got anything that you want to talk about from those experiences in terms of player run stuff versus the CCP official stuff? You've got a lot of history there.
I've yet to be there for the official stuff, unfortunately. It was just after my time, but like seeing everything like come back alive the last like year or so has been great. And then hear the AT announcement, like it is absolute perfection to me to be able to finally hear the AT is back after like a year and a half of just it building up and building up and building up, and here we are. Oh, I'm so excited.
I mean, I fortunately was able to help out with AT 15 and 16, so I kind of got officially involved, I guess. But that kind of element of actually, going to a studio, sitting in a room with a bunch of other nerds to try and put on the best possible show is one hell of an experience. It's great fun, but it's also a great challenge. It's one of those ones of like hard work all day and then relax in the evenings kind of thing. But it is good fun. But it is hard work. But it is, you do it for everyone, right? At the end of the day, it's a great show. Everybody has fun. That's the important thing. But the community-run ones have been absolutely fantastic as well. Like the turnout for them has been phenomenal. People contributing their time has been fantastic. CCP support has been fantastic throughout the whole process. So even though we haven't had a Alliance tournament in a little while, the community-run events have been, a good filler for the time being. I've been really happy to be involved in it. and I hope to continue to be involved in it.
Yeah, and the community's like turnout and love for competitive EVE formats is a lot of the reason why Aurora has worked so hard in order to get the Alliance tournament back, right?
Mhm.
Because there is the community shows time and time again that there is a strong desire for an event like this to happen.
Yeah, if the events of this past year hadn't happened, the Alliance tournament probably wouldn't be back. Is probably a fair thing to say, because it was, just kind of constantly trying to improve the processes that I was setting up behind the scenes for each of these events that kind of enabled us to get to the point where I'm like, all right, I think I can take this to TQ now and maybe not destroy the game. So
I was going to
here's
say,
hoping.
from where I popped in, I came with the 5v5s where I don't think we even had Thunderdome back then. We were doing it on CC, and watching it get better and better with Aurora's doing it. Like, I've only seen little bits, but Aurora's done massive work in the back. We started with a barely running CC matches, and now all of a sudden we've got AT this year. The move, like the speed of how quickly it's gotten better and how more professional it's gotten just in a year. Oh my god, it's been beautiful. I love seeing this stuff.
It's been a really wild ride. I've described it as techno-archaeology, because these were tools that had been somewhat kind of just dropped and not looked at for a while. They'd collected the technical equivalent of dust in the just kind of in the code base. And so I had to kind of like, I had to like go into the code, and I'm like brushing things off. Like, what does this script do? What happens when I do this? How does this work? And it took a lot of learning to figure out how all the parts fit together. So I was like in the background, slowly reassembling an Antikythera device of tournament tools.
Undoing the threads of spaghetti again.
Yeah, and I guess in some ways more like trying to understand the threads of spaghetti. I've only added a couple of my own threads of spaghetti at this point, but.
So the question there then, Aurora, is how many times have you nearly killed Tranquility testing Thunderdome code?
Well, I haven't. There's been a couple close calls that were like hard to explain unless you like really know what's going on. Most of it comes down to how our build processes run in the background. And if you click the wrong button, like things go red, and then people send you angry messages. I haven't had that go particularly bad. I've had a couple of weird ones, or like Python is like, you broke the build because you use spaces instead of a tab indent. Like, just everything dies, and you need to figure out why. That's always a fun one.
I remember a few funny quotes during the Anger Games of, hang on a minute, I think I might have put you in my cargo hold.
Yeah, I think that did happen.
There was one specific moment where the captain of the Goon Swarm team, funnily enough, was, or I should say the Imperium team, because it was a joint Goon Swarm Init Bastion team, but the captain of the Imperium team ended up in Aurora's cargo hold for about 5 minutes.
Yeah, that was a good one.
It was even more hilarious when Aurora went silent for like a solid 20 minutes and then came back and was like, oh yeah, some of you just had the ability to delete entire star systems, and I had to fix that real quick.
Yikes.
Yeah, that was a weird thing that happened with the rules on.
That's a good thing to fix.
It is a good thing to fix. At least it was only on Thunderdome. You guys wouldn't have been able to delete things on TQ, but it still could have been a problem. So there's been a lot of exploration. I've got a really interesting view of how everything works in the back end now, just having explored through all this stuff, which is really fun. I also just last week, I was taking a look through the code base and I was looking at our most current release, and I was like, wait a second, this file looks really familiar. I'm pretty sure I didn't mean to submit that test file that is now on TQ. So there's a test rule set that made it out into Tranquility that I'm not sure I entirely intended to go out, but
oh, that's brilliant.
It's unfortunately at risk with how things are handled. It must have gotten added to another change list, and I didn't realize it, and whoops. So it's not a file that hurts anything, but there's just an extra rule set out there now that I don't think
You're just gonna have to.
I'm just gonna remove it from a company build.
You're gonna have to take it out so that you can replace it with the actual rule set.
Yeah, that is true. I'm heading on to vacation here, but I'll probably be working through it a little bit. But I've got to build the rule set for Alliance Tournament. We've just finalized the points, and now I need to go and make that all work. And because we're doing it on Tranquility, I have to be like super extra cautious. Because for Anger Games and Alliance Open, there were a couple things that was like, oh, we really need the rule set to do this, or these points are wrong. And I had to like do emergency last minute changes, and I can't do those on Tranquility, not easily. Hotfixing Tranquility is like a much larger issue that takes teams of people that I don't have. I'm just alone. So I have to, well, I might be able to get help with it, but it would be a big ask. And I'd have to annoy a lot more people. At least on Thunderdome, I can like go into my sandbox, I make a new build, test it real quick, and then I just like go and update Thunderdome, and I can sort of rapidly move things over. However, when I do those rapid updates to Thunderdome, it's actually like a weirdly it's a non-standard process, because normally Thunderdome being treated as a test server, we don't want to move our development code onto it. Otherwise, you guys would see everything that's like in the pipeline for 3 months from now, which would be bad. So have to like base it off of a different branch, and that causes its own issues because it's non-standard route. And I had to learn how to do some really strange things, but it's something that kind of excites me too, because I just find learning the technical backend to be a little bit exciting as well. So.
And TCP Swift, just real quick, you kind of got dropped in the deep end with the backend tools and the Anger Games and helping out there. Are you feeling a bit more comfortable with your CCP powers nowadays?
Yeah, a little bit actually. It's been nice to know exactly what I can and cannot do. I'm pretty sure I broke Thunderdome once for poor CCP Aurora because I wanted to. There was like this hidden cosmetic in the game that I was like, I need this, so I tried to put it on and it just broke stuff.
Oh yeah.
I also probably broke other stuff, and I will break more stuff in the future, but I'm getting better at not breaking things. So that's really good. I also have a lot of experience with the Alliance Tournament tools because I've been like tinkering with the Alliance Tournament as a player and the tools behind them for forever, I guess. So that I'm really excited that is coming back.
So can I ask a question about the secondary stuff? Because it's one thing to do the whole AT and rolling it out with the NT crew and all that stuff. What about other types of activity when it comes to tournaments and matches? Are you planning on doing something with the partnership program, or I don't know, helping out people that want to get into it? Because historically it's pretty massively end level stuff, but it is actually open to new players, right?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be as complicated as it is. So it tends to be like I am looking at alternative styles of events. I'm kind of like playing with additional types of tournaments that I might be able to roll out at some point in the future, which could be really cool. But in terms of when people approach us for a tournament, it's basically like I just ask them for an event plan. So I want to see a full plan for the event that you're hoping to run, and then I'll evaluate it, and we can talk about Thunderdome access. But basically anybody can request that of us, and I'll take a look at it. So this actually just happened recently. The Alliance Open and Anger Games had actually really excited a lot of players in Chinese alliances, and so they've wanted to put on an event in their time zone, which is actually happening this August. So in addition to making the AT rule set, I'm actually at the same time also trying to make their event work. There's going to be a little bit of crossover in Thunderdome access that I'm going to have to manage, but I don't think that'll be too big an issue. So and that's basically it. So they just kind of approached me with a plan for their event. We want to run this. These are our rules. This is who can enter. If it's just for a single alliance, I won't be able to deploy the tools because it needs to be a public event. But if it's a public event and you're looking to run tournaments, I can probably set up Thunderdome access for whatever someone is looking to do, and that can be done relatively simple. So if you wanted to run like a well, the nice thing about Thunderdome in terms of new player accessibility is that everyone has max skills, and you don't have to pay for chips. So if you're running an event on there, it's hyper accessible. SP is a non-concern. And if somebody wanted to run like a new player focused, maybe a smaller tournament or something, or like they would just like throw you onto a team or whatever it is, that would absolutely be a really cool thing to see.
If you can even consider actually making Thunderdome like a more open and almost CC-like server where anyone can join in the future if esports starts being really popular?
Not currently. Thunderdome is not the strongest server. It's kind of this weird amalgamation of older nodes, and when we have an event, I have to go in and like pick out the hardware that is slightly better than the rest in order to run the events on, and just kind of like remap the nodes around so that there's enough hardware. It wouldn't handle a large number of people.
I said this the other day on the Alliance Tournament Discord, but it is something of a tournament tradition for Thunderdome hosted stuff that CCP Aurora has to kick it every day to bring it to life.
Still true. I get messages almost every other morning. Thunderdome just doesn't like to get out of bed, and I have to go manually kick the server. Not literally kick it, but...
Sorry. We can all relate to Thunderdome not wanting to get out of bed.
100%.
Yeah,
we've seen a few times as well where we've pushed the server a few times to its almost absolute limit. Well, I'm glad it's always survived, but there's been times where it's been like, okay, we're good. Oh, thank God.
Yeah,
it's like a few hairy moments.
You're sitting there thinking, hey, this looks like what Eve looks like in tie-dye, except there is no tie-dye. Right? You have this weird stuttering going on.
That's actually a separate issue that I'm looking into. So the stuttering is only for someone using one of the camera clients. And we think we have a lead on what's causing it. It's a little bit complicated for me to try to explain, but I'm hoping to maybe get this fixed before the tournament.
The consistent rebooting of camera clients certainly does help, but you can't leave that client up for even 4 matches before the server starts to stutter a little. There's a little bit of cleanup that's not being done that should be done. To put it simply, there's a tasklet that kind of multiplies itself as matches go on, and we think we've identified it, but fixing that, we just need to make sure that I don't totally kill the tool. Renthor makes a very good point in Twitch chat as well about the way grids. It's not something that most people would see on streams or what have you, but if you've ever seen a tournament in the back end, especially in the last year, when teams are warping onto grids, they have this bit where they warp in and you can see them, and then suddenly they're not there because the grid breaks, and then suddenly they're there again. And
that might be an artifact of how we generate the arenas.
It's certainly an interesting thing to watch, but for sure, I think before you took up Thunderdome, the last time it would have been touched would have been, 2017 with CCP Logibro, perhaps?
Yeah, I think CCP Logibro was the last one who used it.
Really, for you to have had it up in a functional state at all is a miracle. Serious. Yeah, let's call it a miracle. I'm good with that word.
I also
correct me if I'm wrong. If I remember correctly. Sorry, go ahead, Elise.
I was going to say I'm also okay with that word, but one of the cool parts about the Alliance tournament itself is that for anyone that's like unaware, it's not going to be on Thunderdome. Thunderdome will be available to the people participating so they can practice in a testing environment, but the Alliance Tournament 17 will actually be held on Tranquility.
So you can see all the juicy kill melt on Deco.
Yes.
Yeah.
it takes a little bit of extra work for us to hold it on Tranquility, and there's a whole bunch of extra stuff for us to have to consider. Like I need to get the code in for the tournament 3 months ahead of the tournament, which is a really long lead up because that's just like the development pipeline process.
So you have to have the code in 2 weeks, pretty much.
Yep.
I have a question for Swift. I remember once upon a time there was this great guy that did a FanFest presentation about all the historical doctrines of EVE Online. Maybe someone like that could do something similar about the history of AT.
That guy sounds like a huge nerd. Number one.
Yeah, he does. He was horrible.
I'm sure he could probably. Yeah, I can definitely probably do something similar to that because it is something that that I really love. CCB Aurora and CCB Fozzie also have like this insane tournament knowledge with them as well. So there are times where I'm like, hey, when did that happen? Or Aurora will be like, oh, it happened in this tournament, and this was like the doctrine that did it, and stuff like that. So I think between the three of us, we can probably figure out some really nice tournament lore and to put it on CCB TV or something like that.
With all the good funny clips, right?
All of the boundaries, specifically.
EL Border boundary, exactly that.
I would like to let you know that I've
highlight
never
reel
been
of
violated
boundaries.
in the Alliance tournament. That's never happened.
Just the
It only
feeder.
happened- It only happened in what was it called?
It
the
only
other
happened, see?
But it wasn't in an Alliance tournament. Also because my team also put me in the slowest ship with no prop mod most of the time, so I could never even if I like spent all
He knew
10
what was
minutes
coming.
boating to the boundary, I could never get out. They pretty much idiot proofed it so I could go. And then I just commentated tournaments as a player, so I never had to compete again. It was really nice.
You had a wonderful experience with heated guns, right? At one point, Swift?
Yeah. I mean, the thing about heat damage is it creeps up on you.
It does.
It does creep up on you. I will give you that. But you still had your tournament licks, as it were.
It's okay. I played the long game, and now I can finally defeat the boundary once and for all. I've finally bested the boundary. I can exist outside of it if I want. I can just make it go away probably if I want. So it was a 10-year battle, but I finally won the war.
Is that possible? Can you just remove the boundary?
I'm sure I could figure out a way, and Aurora would be really upset with me if I did. But I'm sure
You'd have to use the Python console, and that's a dangerous thing to touch. So please
I
don't
love
try it
how
on
Aurora's
Tranquility at least.
I love how Aurora's like, you could, and she's like, there's like a look of dismay. She says, like, I'm not going to tell him how to do that. Nope, I'm not telling him how to do that.
I was just about to say it's fine though. As a referee, we can put him back outside that boundary again.
A fun thing about that boundary is that it's not like just hitting the boundary. It's not like a collider. It's basically like every tick it runs a check that's like, are you within 150 kilometer of the center of the arena? 125 of the center of the arena. And then as soon as it like a tick says no, it explodes you. So literally anyone in the solar system who's outside of the bubble will get exploded, which is random fun fact about how the boundary works.
I mean, this raises a question that I'm sure CCP Swift will know the answer to. This explains how we get our boundary violation records. And I'm sure Swift knows the current boundary record. I can't bring it to mind off the top of my head.
I don't have it. I don't have the eidetic knowledge for that or the eidetic memory for that one. I kind of repress those memories.
It's 220 something, I'm sure, but I can't remember the precise distance.
Someone
really
in a match that they were definitely going to lose, someone did want to set that record. I believe it was on the Hydra team. So they got right to the edge of the arena and then MJD'd out.
227 kilometers.
There we go. General has us. Table in Twitch chat was suggesting 224, but I thought it was a bit higher than that. 227 sounds right. Do you have which match? His name is Table. His name's always been Table.
My mind's been blown. I never knew that. Oh god.
If you look at the Angry Games server, we even have Table's special image role.
I didn't know. I've been calling him Evil.
He is he is the evil Table, but that's not related to his name.
Killed him.
Wingnut's beside himself.
Wingnut's just gone. Jesus.
Yeah.
So I've got to go in a couple minutes, but I've got a kind of darker side of all this question. As Dirk can attest, because I'm in Goons, and as Dirk can attest, one of the problems with being in Goons is if you display competence, you get punished by getting more responsibility.
It is always true.
Now that you've displayed this, as you put it, techno-archaeology skill, are you worried they're going to have you untangle Poscode?
No, because any producer worth their salt knows that I'm not actually worth that much and is slightly terrified by the fact that I'm touching code at all. So I'm probably good on that part. That said, they're also somewhat weirdly okay with me actually doing things as long as I put it through proper code review, which is certainly interesting because I was hired as a community developer and not as a code developer. So this is like having someone in your marketing team just suddenly start, submitting changes to your production pipeline, which is a little weird. Raises some eyebrows, and I'm extra subject to if something breaks and it's on me, I need to be super careful because that could be the end of my playing with things, and that would cause a whole new set of problems. So probably won't be touching Poscode.
Now I imagine there being a huge sign in the office that simply reads Aurora that lights up every time you touch code.
There was actually I heard tale of somebody in the office who, at their previous job, they had a robot that would sneak around the office, and whenever you submitted a failed build, it would shoot you in the back of the head with a Nerf gun.
That's hilarious.
That's amazing.
And there was somebody else who was really pushing for a blimp of shame, which would have been a robotic blimp that would slowly float over to your desk if you submitted a failed build.
I mean,
that's amazing.
Here comes the blimp of shame.
Before we got into the robotics aspect, I was just imagining a sign with days since Aurora committed a code error. But,
robotics just makes it all better.
Is even funnier.
If I submit
slowly coming. Just the blip slowly coming down the wall.
It's just passes overhead and you're like, oh, thank God, it's not me.
Not me. Yes!
Just follows you around the office.
I hit enter and then I close my office door so that the blimp can't get to me.
Just bangs into the door.
We don't have doors.
Into the door, exactly.
We don't have doors. It's a lot of desks and glass dividers. But...
You don't have doors at the new office?
No, it's very, very open design.
Oh, wow. Because,
I'm sorry to hear that.
Perfect for a blimp.
They give us all Bose headphones that are noise canceling so that we can't hear all the noise around us, but that makes Skype calls really tricky.
Yeah, again, none of the community really has heard much about this new office so far.
Didn't we have
it's really cool?
Well, it was empty and still under construction, not since they've been in it.
I can see if we can arrange a fresher digital tour. But
that would be cool.
It looks very nice. It is a super nice space, and I very much enjoy going there, and not sitting at home slowly rotting away without human interaction, as I have been for the last year. But it's great, and it would actually be perfect for the blimp of shame in terms of layout.
And not to drag this back to tournament stuff, but you mentioned in the dev blog as well that we're going to see, obviously the EVE-NT crew, General Stargazer included, is helping out quite significantly with the broadcast side of the AT-17. I don't want to press you too hard on where exactly the delineations are, but you're apparently flying them out to Iceland for the broadcast in November.
Yep, we are indeed. We have a new studio in our office. It's not maybe as big as previous LAN studios, but it is a really nice one in terms of equipment. We're currently getting some extra rails set up overhead so that we can configure lighting better. It's got a big green screen. It's where you'll see CCP Convict when he's running his streams. That's usually where he's doing it out of, is in that studio. and it's got like it feels very professional with like the glass window for like the sound booth off to the side, and so we can actually put like producers in that booth who are like doing the stuff for the main broadcast in the other room. And so we're looking at we're trying to find the old Alliance tournament desk. We think it exists somewhere, but we're not quite sure where it is. It might be in like
archaeology.
Yeah, it might be in a couple of
literal archaeology.
If we can't find it, we'll have a new one built. But we're working on bringing this all over. It'll be really interesting. It's going to take some kind of fine tuning.
The history of the desk.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's why it's the first choice to bring it back.
Aurora, speaking of, right, I'm pretty sure that we were promised a proper video tour of the new offices, so you still owe us that one, as far as I remember.
Well, no, we had one while it was empty, Caleb.
But that was the little short one. We haven't actually got one with proper commentary and
here you go,
meet and greets and stuff.
Very short video tour.
The Aurora office.
Here you go, Caleb.
I was actually gonna like.
I'm not in the office for anyone wondering. This is my.
Yeah. I was actually going to throw that over to General real quick and talk about General. Are you in the team that's going out to Iceland? Are you going to be on location, as it were?
I don't think that's actually officially been like declared and announced as of yet. That's still being decided, as far as I'm aware.
Right. Okay.
We're still in the process of figuring out, just how many people do we have the budget and floor space to accommodate. What are like the top roles by priority, and then Eventy will be doing a bit of kind of headhunting to figure out who they want to bring. So there's still a lot yet to be decided in terms of who will get to come out.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. It's early days. I just wanted to throw the question across and let General talk about that if he wanted to. That was all.
Yeah, as I say, it's just there's not really a huge amount to say on it. We're going to be doing a little bit of like essentially as Aurora says, like talent recruiting. We're going to be going through previous commentators, analysis, so on and so forth, and figure out essentially who we want to send over, and figure out who the final team's essentially going to be.
Yeah, it's part of like Alliance tournament tradition to have like player commentators who kind of do it better than we can out to hype up the event to the appropriate levels. So I'm really glad that element is coming back, because it is one of my favorite parts of EVE Online was getting the opportunity to come out and do that as a player. And there have been incredibly talented people come through those doors, and it's been amazing to watch them.
CCP Swift here telling us that there are commentators better than he is out there. I don't quite believe it, but here we go.
The original Hypecaster.
I like to think that CCP Swift is the best, and I'm somewhat biased because during one of my matches he said great shot calling by the Brave FC, which is me. And so I'm like, I've treasured that video ever since. So shot caller of my heart, CCP Swift.
The motivator video for the day.
CCP Swift is the original hype man. I'm not gonna lie. The original AT hype man.
I stole everything I know, just like from EVE Online. I stole it all from Shadoo. So
not his eyebrows though. Not yet, anyway.
I do not have the eyebrow power. I need to see an esthetician to see if I can get some caterpillars up there. Maybe get Natalie Dormer to teach me how to use my eyebrows a little bit better. That's going to be my off season, right?
I'm going to have to do an honorary mention of my own favorites, CCP Soundwave and Moderator, because they were amazing and
Moderator is a boss. I love Moderator. Just the image of him in the vest, just spitting hot fire, is one that I will like cherish forever, because I got to like sit in the studio with him, like across from him as he and Rain were commentating. Man, it was so much fun.
I do believe we had a moderator in Twitch chat earlier on as well. I think he tuned in to watch for a little bit at least. So thank you, moderator, and all of our tournament friends in the Twitch chat. I can't speak for everyone, but most of us here love tournaments and the competitive side of EVE Online. So anybody who's tuning in and is hyped for the AT coming back, you know, it's great to see you. And I suppose, real quick, there's actually a comment to be made, because whenever you look at Reddit, and I know Reddit is one of those horrendous cesspits that nobody really wants to talk about, but whenever you talk about tournaments on Reddit, people seem to have this idea that the tournament scene is this tiny, tiny fraction of the player base, and, you know, the AT will only interest like 100 players total. And I wanted to ask the people in the channel with tournament experience, does that sort of commentary mirror your experience with tournaments at all?
I mean, my general input on this is there has been, yes, there is that to an extent, but there are people that will like just exist for the sole purpose of playing tournaments. But I think you have that in pretty much any game, right? But there have been repeatedly people that have said, you know, what got me into this game was actually seeing the tournament for the first time on Twitch, or, you know, hearing about it. But it's not only elitist people that kind of like get involved in the tournament. There is, I mean, like one of the things that's been set up already for this tournament is like looking for teams for, you know, new people that want to potentially get into the tournament that don't have potentially an alliance that will support them, but they want to get involved. So it's not a case of, you know, just in lots of individuals. I think as a whole, there is a big interest in the alliance tournament.
Can I just ask a question, because we caught on the whole fame thing. Have you people doing the planning for the next iteration of AT? Have you given any thought to how you can promote and put some more fame on the actual teams and potentially team participants and team captains? Like maybe something like doing live interviews post fights with the team captains.
There's something we have done in the past is like we normally at least, okay, yes, not every game, but normally by the time a team gets knocked out or is close to being knocked out, we'll normally end up, you know, bringing in a team captain. We'll have a conversation with them, what they thought about the game, you know, how the calls went, if anything, you know, unpredictable happened. It's generally something that happens as part of the whole, you know, process of the show production. I was going to say, in terms of the fame as well, obviously the recently got added into the game was the tournament monuments got added in, which is obviously each of the alliance logos actually ended up getting put onto a little, you know, structure. So, you know, you win, you get your alliance icon out there forever.
Yeah, so in terms of the actual production, the way that I tend to think of AT production is often really similar to NFL broadcasts in the US. For the Europeans here who think American football is dumb, that's fine. But the way they do their broadcasts are really kind of well done. And the style of American football is actually really similar to like the style of matches in alliance tournaments. It's hyper complicated to those who don't necessarily know what's going on. It comes in really like discrete bursts with a whole lot of different members. And there's a lot of different activity that's all kind of happening. And so the way that they do their breakdowns and their post-match analyses and all of that sort of thing, I think is actually a really solid like frame of reference for us to learn from, because it helps to, you know, what they're constantly doing is, you know, they'll introduce players, they'll talk about their history, they'll talk about their stats, and like why this person is so important in this context. And, you know, they take you to a replay and they show you footage of the match and help to explain it in real detail. And so like that's the stuff that I really personally like want to aim for in terms of making the event as accessible as it can be, because there's a lot of people who watch American football and they love it all the same, even though they don't necessarily understand all of the like highly complex tactics that are happening behind each other. It's like people run into each other, ball moves maybe. And I think I don't know, it's a good example.
I can just imagine now there's going to be like a big chart somewhere with lots of zeros and crosses with lines and arrows going in different directions as ships and players move around the grid, right?
If we could do that, man. If we could do that, because the only problem is it's in 3D, so you got to move the ball around constantly trying to figure out what everything is. If we had the capability of doing that, it would be golden. But
we have that. We have Crayon Tech now, right?
I hate you because honestly, trying to constantly track the action and figure out where the action is in an Alliance tournament match as a cameraman is far more difficult than you actually think it would be to begin with.
It's tricky, and there's always a bit of tension between the people who want to see like up close explosions and guns firing, and the AT hards who really want to see like just leave it zoomed out so I can see exactly what's going on.
This is half of the thing, right? Because you're seeing as the cameraman, you see the grid on one screen, and then you see what you're actually trying to capture on camera on another, and then in amongst all of that, you try and figure out where the big fights are happening, but there's also a lot of skirmishes happening around the side that you want to make sure that are caught. But then you're not sure if one or two ships breaking off and going off green is actually major. So you're like, don't I follow that? It's a really tricky judgment call at the end of the day.
It is really tricky.
As well. I think it's bad enough for the camera. Imagine what it's like for the guys flying it.
Yeah,
like
it's a lot to take in
at the same time too. So if it's bad for the camera, imagine what it's like for the guy flying. Like, it's kind of nice that it's as bad as it is.
I mean, that was one of the things that drew me towards that overhead model for the Anger Games, where
overhead is nice. You lose a little bit of depth.
It was just off in a corner, but it was a constant overhead thing in the corner of the screen that showed ships roughly where they were in a circle, and then I followed the camera with the main screen. But it was an evolution for me learning how to try and figure out that camera angle, and I'm still not sure if I got it right at all.
Right.
What we're trying to do is sorry, real quick. We're actually looking to have like multiple different cameramen. So like we have somebody who's doing like a zoomed out, like constantly trying to put it in a position where it's like really easy to see the field position, and then somebody's doing like the glamour shots up close, and we can actually do like really quick cuts between them that you can't do if you only have a single camera person.
So I just want to say, this is something that Bay and I spoke about during the Hunger Games, and B, I hate them for making it more difficult for me.
Well, looking at the clock, I think we have to say goodbye to CCP Aurora.
Kicking me out already.
Well, no.
Well, otherwise, I'm responsible for you being late, and I don't want to be responsible.
No problem. It was a pleasure talking to you all.
Thank you very much for coming on, and we look forward to seeing the rules on Monday. We'll be talking about them, no doubt, over the next few weeks as things really spin up for the tournament. Just generally, thank you very much for coming on and talking to us.
It's been a pleasure.
And now really enjoy turning off your camera and messing up McLeod's setup.
Yeah, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's totally fine, Aurora. Don't worry about it in any way, shape, or form. I will adapt. I will adapt as is always the case. But it was great to have you on.
You guys can always find me in the Alliance Tournament official Discord.
Yay!
Give me 2 seconds, and I'll actually drop a link to that in Twitch chat as well.
Hang on, that's not CCP Aurora.
Wait a minute! I've been promoted.
I mean, Wingnut is currently straddling 2 windows.
Oh yeah!
From one to the other.
Left, right, dodge.
I've forgotten how hilarious can be sometimes.
I do want to.
That when I like sneak out the back in a couple of seconds here, because now that Aurora's gone, I can't really contribute anything new. But
that's not true.
No, that's not true.
I mean, she is like the.
You can always contribute something.
I will say to a lot of like I got a lot
smile.
of comments because of my like history with Alliance Tournament and what I've done as a player. A lot of people assume like, oh, this is Swift's doing or something. If I could like say just clear up the amount of work that I did versus the amount of work that she did, it would be literally 100% done by Aurora, and me just walking around like grinning from ear to ear that not only was it coming back, but all the hard work was done for me. Just cannot give enough credit to what Aurora has done. She really underplays the level of work that she contributed to bringing the Alliance Tournament back. I know that a lot of people are like, oh man, is this like a, you know, is the best use of dev time or something? Like this is Aurora working on the weekends herself to unearth stuff that no one else like was touching before. So this is completely additive and done with like just all love and a great plan to make sure that this is sustainable moving forward and that we have all the tools in place to make it work. So a real huge shout out to CCP Aurora for bringing Alliance Tournament back. I am so excited to watch how it works out. And I love watching the players in the Alliance Tournament Discord just talking about the tournament and like just being excited about it. Like that has been so infectious to just read. I just sat in bed last night reading through the Discord logs, and I was like, oh man, it's so nice to see these people.
You're completely forgetting and overlooking how much hard work she's actually prepared for you when you arrive.
So far, it's been super easy though. Like she's like, hey, can you help me out with this one thing? I'm like, okay, now what? And she's like, oh no, everything's done. Like, here's all the documentation for it. Can you make sure like it's all good? And I'm like, oh wow, there's some really good ideas here. And there is, you know, the announcement is coming on Monday for the rules, including the new mercenary rule that we like kind of hinted at,
I mean,
as well as
we didn't actually get a chance to chat about that. But the mercenary rule, just could you just cover a quick overview of what we know already? I'm not asking you to release like leaks or anything, but we have this mercenary rule that a lot of people are making assumptions about. And I just want to like cover what we know already from
I don't know
official
exactly
source.
what we know already officially.
Mostly that there is a mercenary rule, and it will allow some amount of people to not be in an alliance for a team.
So we have kind of looked at some failings of the Alliance Tournament before, not failings, but like weak spots, and looked to harden and reinforce them. So we've kind of heavily taken that into consideration when planning for the Alliance Tournament. So there are some yet to be unfolded wrinkles that the players haven't seen yet. So that'll be cool. And then the mercenary rule is a minor part of that, allowing players that are relatively unaffiliated to compete in the Alliance tournaments with a team. So that will be really, really nice to see. We've tried to make it so that it can't be abused in any way. It's just like an additive feature for players that might not be in a group, or players like Spectre Fleet if they want to compete as a unit. But we want to be able to enable groups like that to compete officially, because before we had these like weird random rules to like we could kind of like squeeze in there, but they didn't really fit, but it kind of did.
I mean,
a lot of that
I remember
does come from the Anger Games too. Like we liked what we saw with the Anger Games, and we've just said, hey, how can we enable this like, even more?
I do want to say, I do remember real quick in the last Alliance Tournament 16, 2018, there were a couple of teams that were multiple alliances. So there was obviously the Red versus Blue team, which was made up of 2 alliances, because that's how Red versus Blue works, and things like that. But Soth, I mean, have you got anything to say about the whole?
Well, I definitely know one Bastion member who is very, very happy that this rule exists, right?
I'm not sure if I can comment on that, given that they're by all indications on my team. But yeah, for sure.
What I also want to point out is like as someone who has organized some of these player events, it's always nice to see CCP taking some of your ideas and iterating on them, right? May it be some of the rules, or may it be something like allowing people from different alliances, or just like taking one of your spreadsheets and using them as a basis to make a better spreadsheet. It's just a bit of validation, I guess.
Seems to be very specific there.
So I want to be a little bit clear about that. For the Anger Games, well, even before the Anger Games, just talking a bit generally, experienced tournament teams will take points lists and the other rules about how many of X ship type or X hull type or what have you into account, and they'll make a spreadsheet that is effectively a calculator for their 7 ship comps or 10 ship comps or what have you, and it will highlight any major issues. So for example, if you can only field 2 battleships and you put 3 battleships in, it flags that in red and tells you, hey, you or 3 destroyers or whatever the case may be. It flags it up pretty majorly. And for the Anger Games, again, I was a little bit involved in sponsoring the Imperium team, and they came up with a very good calculator for what comps they could field, what comps they couldn't, and just generally, we thought that would be a really good tool to have for any of the new team in the tournament.
Yeah, we just stole that, by the way. So that'll be released within Monday.
Right. So basically, what we're seeing here is the Anger Games organizers stealing the Imperium team's Anger Games comp calculator, making it available to everyone, and then CCP stealing the Anger Games comp calculator, adjusting it for the amount of people that are allowed on the team, because we go from 7 in the Anger Games to 10 in the Alliance tournament, and also the points values that will be released on Monday. So when we talk about the way the tournament scene is really just very much people interacting with one another and always interconnected, we really are being true about that one. Everyone steals from everyone here.
Eve players and Excel sheets are the most iconic duo in all of gaming, so absolutely had to put that in there. And it was a genius idea. It's something that, as you mentioned, that players already did before, or teams already did before. So why make them reinvent the wheel each and every time? We can just supply it for them. And it also lowers the barrier to entry a little bit, right? For teams that might be, I mean, they might not be like the Tuskers and the like the top teams at all, but the competing is still
I love how you were trying to avoid saying PL there, Swift. It's okay.
Well, I mean, the PLE
or Volta who can't count to 3.
Missing some stuff. But yeah, I was trying to think of templates, but I was just thinking of Starfleet Commander, or the Last Spartan's name in my head, and I couldn't think of templates.
So you were thinking of Starfleet Commander when you were trying to isolate the Last Spartan. Okay.
Their names are so similar anyways. Maybe...
Sure, similar. That's sure.
So instead of Boundary, we're just going to call it Radacross now.
Ooh.
Oof.
But yeah, you're absolutely right in your assessment of the competitive culture in EVE Online when it comes to organizing events. There's lots of building and iterating on successes and smoothing out the failures from previous years. So the goal, at least, is as we get more and more of these, they'll be better and better, and borrowing from great ideas that the community has, kind of building on those as well. We also watch a ton of esports. EVE Online isn't necessarily the esports team or the esports game that you think of, but we still watch a lot of esports events. So like I for one had a really good kick out of the Animajor, which Dota recently put out. I thought that was a really
it would be Dota with you, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So I mean, we kind of look there and get some influence as well, but it's mostly like, what have our players done? What worked? What didn't work? What can we expand on? What do we think would be useful, not only for teams competing, but for the viewers? Because we want, obviously we want to put this on so that people can compete, but we also want people to be able to root for their teams. We want people to be able to watch in a meaningful way and get invested in the outcomes of these matches. And we have some plans for that for Alliance Thorn 17 that I hope the community will be really excited about. I suspect they will, because Aurora has really thought about everything when it comes to this.
I was going to say, poetic irony as well. The whole tournament thing of the last year and a half started with spreadsheets, with the 5v5s, with that fancy, ridiculous thing they've made, and it's ended with a spreadsheet from Anger Games, potentially being the starting block of the new AT. That's like a perfect, round table there. Perfect ending that story.
It's a very incestuous community, I'm not going to lie. I mean, hell, you look at our staff list from the Anger Games, right? Stuff. Where are we at with the staff list on Anger Games versus the Alliance Open versus the EVE-NT crew who are helping out with the Alliance tournament now? It's
pretty much all the same.
We've got a lot of similar names cropping up somewhere in the process. But I mean, it's just such a fun thing at the end of the day as well. I know a lot of players don't particularly how to say this properly. That there are a lot of players who watch the tournaments but don't want to engage in them or don't think they're good enough to engage in them. And for anybody who thinks they're not good enough, I would always encourage you to just either join your Alliance team or start an Alliance team and build from the ground up, because you really can do it.
You never know what you're going to go up against on the day. Like, you can have the most best team in the world, and then all it takes is someone accidentally overheating too much or not paying attention and goes outside the boundary, and then the opposing team, who may be completely brand new, suddenly wins. Like, you just don't know what you're going to get on the day. You could end up making a team that's completely new and has the most amazing individual solo pilots, and you unexpectedly get to the finals. You just literally don't know. You can prepare all day long and you may win, you may lose. It's just what happens on the day.
Yeah, to borrow CCB Aurora's NFL analogy, on any given Sunday, you're either going to win or you're going to lose.
Exactly.
Might be a little bit more involved in that, but but you are right. When it comes down to it, it is either you win or you lose.
And honestly, even if you do lose, the best way to get better is just to try again and practice every time. Remember that the AT is effectively the best pilots around being put into one place. You may not be the best jet, but there's only one way you're going to be able to do it. It's by fighting those who are.
Yeah, that is actually, that is a really good point too, right? If you have a goal in EVE Online that you want to get better, and you want to challenge yourself, the best way that you can do is to throw yourself into the crucible of the best, and to see what happens when you come out. I can guarantee you that even through the practicing stage and preparing stage of the Alliance tournament, you will get better at EVE Online in the PvP capacity at least. You'll be a better EVE Online pilot, which can translate to being better in the Abyss, or being better in different environments, or being better on a fleet, having more situational awareness. Maybe you want to become, like, instead of just a member of the fleet, you want to become a content enabler of the fleet, like a scout or a backup FC. Like, all those skills are ones that you learn in the Alliance tournament. And I understand that it's not for everyone to compete in, and that's totally fine. We're not expecting all of the server to compete in the thing, but we want to offer that because it's something that has been existing in EVE Online for as far back as I can remember, and it's been a huge moment for a lot of players. So we want to just make sure that continues in the future of EVE.
The learning process.
Well, The one difference is what's like regular TQ. Is TQ, whenever you're fighting someone, you don't know if where you stack up. There's a billion ships versus a billion ships. In all tournaments, you've effectively got the same amount of stuff to play with. It is all what you think, and it's using that brain power to make good comps, to fly your comps right, to use what you've got right, and then defeat theirs, which is theoretically better. That's what makes you better, because you can't bring 50 more guys. You have to bring what you've got. This is it. You have to make use of what you've got.
And maybe you actually have an idea for a comp that no one else has thought about. We saw it in Anger Games, where all of a sudden Templars were dropping double Widow comps, right?
This was the other thing I said that I mentioned it yesterday in another conversation, is the fact that, okay, yeah, you may not think you're the best possible pilot in EVE, but if you're a good tactician, you know, if you get access to the spreadsheet when it comes out, it's like, you know, you can plan comps for your team. You can think, you know, this is a counter to this potentially on paper. There's like an extra level of, you know, additional contributions that you can make to a team as well.
Yeah, you don't have to be the guy flying. You can be the guy telling people what to fly.
One of my favorite Alliance tournament stories that like exists, and there have been so many, so it's hard to pull out a favorite. But one of my favorite that I think like makes it just iconic to EVE Online is you have a tournament dominant like powerhouse in Band of Brothers for the early Alliance tournaments. They're led by a captain named TWD, who is a literal chess grandmaster, insanely smart.
Oh, I remember this one. Yeah.
Like very strategic type of mind, comes up with an unbeatable team. He figured it out, and they have more ISK, more resources, more skill points than anyone else. They are just this unbeatable mountain of a team. And then on the other side, you just have all thoraxes, and all those thoraxes just zerg in and rush and kill this unbeatable team in like the most simplistic and easy thinking manner that you can imagine. And it's just that when you boil that moment down, that is EVE Online to me. Like, just anything can happen.
It's chess versus checkers, man. Be people playing different games. That's what you can do. You can either be the best pilot, like for instance, Tuskers have some great just straight up pilots, or you can be some of the best theory crafters. PL theory crafting themselves into holes. It can be anywhere. You can find a strength and really make it work for you. So if you see that these guys are smart, fly better.
I mean, yeah, that's all very true, but here's an actually similarly related question from Twitch chat, which is, are Alliance tournament ships allowed in this AT? And if so, how is that fair? And CCP Swift, it was announced in the dev blog, let's go with dev blog rather than me alliterating A's too much, that we wouldn't be allowing Alliance tournament ships this year.
Correct. For this year, we opted not to go with allowing Alliance tournament ships. You know, they are very expensive. They are fought over, and you know, they can be very, very powerful in the Alliance tournament setting, to the point where if you don't have one, or if your team doesn't have access to one, when you get to the finals, there's a good chance that, you know, even without the ship, just the threat of the ship, you won't be able to compete. So to even the playing field for this year, to bring the Alliance tournament back, we wanted to make sure that that little chess piece was taken off the board to, you know, even it out for everyone. I know that some people will be disappointed, but it doesn't mean in the future that Alliance tournament ships won't come back. In terms of shiny explosions, we still have flagships. So we've kind of tweaked the flagship rule a little bit.
That was going to be my follow-up, and that was going to be my follow-up. And you have mentioned that you've tweaked the flagship rule a little bit just there. I don't want to prompt you to release details that aren't there, but how different is the flagship rule this year compared to previous years?
It's not all that different in that it'll still be a shiny explosion potentially waiting to happen, but the rules in particular kind of shake it up a little bit so it's not all the same ships over and over again. I think that kind of gets really boring when you see Balgorns online, because the Balgorns just are such good ships. When you throw money at it, like
never mind the left shots.
That does sound to me like a points change for various different things. Like for example, the Balgorn. Possibly,
there's a pretty significant points change as well that is coming.
I would
it's
have thought so.
it's not going to be like completely revolutionary from the ground up, but the points changes are a little bit more granular, which I think we've chatted about before. So certain ships which excel in their class or which don't do well in their class have been weighted a little bit differently, which is all in the sheet as well. So you don't have to worry about doing that mental math. But yeah, the tournament should feel like the Alliance tournament without feeling like the last Alliance tournament, if that makes sense, right? So you're not going to see the same ships over and over again, but you're going to know what to expect when you turn on the broadcast.
So basically what you're saying is that you started out from the last Alliance tournament, and in the 3 years nearly since, you've taken some lessons from various other player tournaments. So the Alliance Open and obviously the Ant Games. Aurora mentioned that there were some lessons learned, but this is kind of a culmination of everything that has happened in tournaments in the last couple of years.
That's a good way to put it. And next year as well is going to be an iteration on this as well. So we're committed to staying on our toes and making sure the Alliance tournament doesn't get stale. So that is something to really look forward to in the future. And if you're worried about who's behind the wheel, you've got a ton of like very experienced Alliance tournament veterans in terms of like captains, competitors, like all with our fingers in here. So we're not going to make the Alliance tournament something it's not. And we're not going to like water down the experience in any capacity. We want to enable more people to take part, and we think we have a good idea of what's good and what's not. But thankfully, we also rely on the community through like the events that you guys do to get more ideas and more insights that we can shamelessly borrow from.
So at this point, what you're saying is that I'm going to go after the rules are announced. I'm going to go through 6 months of hell with Sothrasil.
Yeah, that's what the plan is. Aurora and I, when we were tinkering with the rules, we had this moment where we were like just on voice coming up with the rules, and we're like, are we being cruel to these people by like putting the points in this way? And we're both like, yeah, but that's the point, right? Like that's what we want to happen as well. So there are going to be some tough decisions. Not everything will be. There's not like an unbeatable team that's very easy to think of straight off the top. There should be a lot of teams and different archetypes that will be successful and viable in the Alliance tournament. So at least that's the goal.
I think the other thing that to just kind of add on to that as well is when you think of the duration between the last Alliance tournament and this one, the amount of yes, there is a degree of what becomes the main meta in tournaments, but the amount of ship rebalances that have happened and how much individual ships have changed over the years, I think is going to be reflected quite interestingly in the point values.
Yeah, the Widow's gonna have a hard time. I'm just gonna say, like, it was already a good ship in the Alliance tournament, and then we buffed it. So
the Widow is having a hard time.
Well, I think we could have worked that one out. I think we could have worked that one out, and I think we probably could have worked out the Balgorn one as well. So yeah, makes sense.
I mean, I'm looking forward to the teams that designate a flag bar guest. That'll be fun, given the points reduction that typically goes along with sponsorship factions.
Yeah, if you've missed it before, the Mordu's Legion are the sponsors of this event, so they will be giving us the prize ships. They're also responsible for the mercenary rule because they're mercenaries, which is actually not the case, but I just like saying that because it sounds fun.
Balance Legion.
I want to. Oh no, go for it. I mean.
And those ships are probably going to be very popular in the Alliance tournament as well, because, the IGC got a nice bribe from the Mordu Legion.
How are you guys going to cope with the fact that you're doing this without AT ships? Because there's a whole generation of EVE players that's joined the game and has never seen these things in actual gameplay, right? So it's taking away a little bit of that high end level bling to not have them represented in the AT.
I don't think so. I mean, just to add on to what Caleb said, like, I personally, I think that taking the AT ships away from the AT tournament is probably a good thing in terms of allowing people to allowing newcomers to basically look at it and go like, you know, there's at least a possibility that I could actually get to the top, and not just get like, you know, blocked by a group sort of in the, you know, in the playoffs, you know, pulling an AT ship out of the bag and just screwing me over kind of thing.
I completely agree with it from a sportsmanlike ship and from an actual gameplay.
I know,
but
Caleb,
I'm just
but like,
thinking the excitement of seeing them come on field is like massive.
But I was getting to that, Caleb. But like, there are definitely still rare and expensive ships out there that aren't specifically AT ships. That, you know, are they still allowed to be potentially used? You know, in the next the upcoming Alliance tournament?
No State Ravens either. So none of those.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, oh, the State Raven would be an amazing thing to just suddenly appear.
The most expensive ships on the battlefield will likely be the flagships.
He says likely they will be the flagships.
I know there is a lot of excitement as a team that has fielded a triple Maracha comp. I know there is a lot of excitement when these shiny ships are on the field. And especially watching them explode. Like, that is a huge entertainment milestone. But I would rather, and I think we would rather, allow more teams to be able to compete in a meaningful way without having to worry about, hey, where can I get my hands on an Etana in this day and age, right? Like, with a few months of notice that this event has come back, I'm like, when you stock up as an Alliance Tournament team captain, when you stock up your hangars, you do so knowing that there's going to be an Alliance Tournament soon, and you start planning a year, sometimes more, in advance.
Don't talk to me about stocking up hangars, please.
Yeah, so when we're talking about this event is coming in November, it would be really unfair for new competitors to just not have the ability to get those ships. We're not ruling it out for the future. But for this one, it seems the most equitable solution is to just say no Alliance Tournament ships can compete.
I think my question was, what do you have any plans for types of content or, I don't know, demo matches or something like that to still have them be seen in actual gameplay? Because I feel like it's a little bit sad that it's coming up on quite a lot of years since I've seen some of these things actually blow up. So I'm just thinking, do you have any plans of things you could do to actually get them back in the spectators?
I mean, I just want to interject and say that one blew up while we were on air and we discussed it.
This is true, but I only saw it. You
only see the kill mail. You don't see the actual. Yeah.
You didn't see it on video, but we saw one blow up on air. So
with another one on the mail too.
With another one on the mail. These things are still very active. They're just not quite as visible. And I think that's half of the issue, is the visibility of people using these rather than them being involved in tournaments necessarily.
So we did a pretty deep dive onto the live server as to where these ships are, and because when we were evaluating, hey, should we bring these ships back in some capacity? Well, how badly will that ruin the ecosystem? And one of the questions that we answered is, how many of these ships exist on Tranquility right now? How many are in active accounts? How many are in inactive accounts? You would be surprised at the average login date for the Mimer, for example. It is very, very, very long, to the point where I don't think if you asked for someone today if they could get a Mimer or anything like that, I don't think you would be able to get someone to log in and get one within a day.
Interesting that you bring up the Mimer, given that that's intended to be prize ships for next year, according to the devlog.
That is possible to be a prize ship for next year, yeah, because then the 10-year grace period,
10-year cycle
for that ship, yeah.
I gotta ask this because I think everyone's gonna want to ask this anyway. How many of those 80 ships do we know are on banned accounts? If is that possible to find?
A lot of them are on banned accounts, or a non-insignificant number are on banned accounts, and a non-insignificant number on accounts that haven't logged in over 2 years.
Damn.
So even if they're not banned, they just don't log in because, I mean, those people there were prizes from 10 years ago. Like, the people have moved on. people have said, "Hey, this was a level when I was able to compete hyperactively in EVE Online, and this is what I have to show for it."
Even if you think
that CCP Swift is still here.
Yeah. My account is actually one of those accounts that has the prize ships on, so it's fun to see the the names and like the login. At least
all right, you mentioned that. Which prize ship have you got? Or prize ships even? What
I've got
have you
a
got?
Maracha and I've got a Memer.
So I think
of course you've got a memer.
So
he's got a fucking Maracha, which is more to the point. Holy shit!
I captained that team, so
I hate to ask you this, Swift, but like, is there a company policy as to whether you can sell those to people for 80 for like upcoming Alliance tournaments, or is it something that you cannot remove?
But there's no way you can get that out of my hands. So
okay, that's good.
I think it would just be me and Fozzie that rule applies to, because I think we're the only ones that have AT ships.
I swear very limited. I'd love a Maracha. The Maracha is possibly the most gorgeous ship in EVE Online.
Unique hulls, very unique ships.
That unique hull, and I mean the bonuses aren't bad either, but the way the hull looks is just, oh man.
Yeah, I agree. It is a super pretty ship, and there is this element of shame where there aren't really any of them flown very often because there are so few of them. But that's a different conversation to have with different people. We're just excited to bring the AT back.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, hell yeah.
I think we're all very happy to see the AT return. And you know what? The people in Twitch chat who are going to turn around and say, like, no, we don't want to see the AT back. No, it's such a tiny thing. I tried to get onto this track earlier on and let other people talk about it, but Sothercell, where were our numbers at for the Hunger Games in, February to May this year?
Oh, it was... I don't remember the exact numbers, but I do remember that I was blown away by the viewership. All
right, but before we talk about the viewership, how many fucking people are we talking about in terms of our 32 teams that weren't 32 teams at the end of the day?
Well, if you do the math, we had somewhere around 600 people in teams.
So 600 raw players just in the teams.
Plus a bunch of people on staff.
Yeah, so I mean, our staff channel was what, 25 to 30 people?
More like 30, yeah.
Each of those teams would probably have a bunch of people that were kind of like helping out, that weren't exactly specifically playing as well. Like, you'd have people, just pitching in, helping out with like certain things like, strategy and all that kind of stuff, right? Like that weren't actually playing.
For sure.
So you got those like support staff as well for each team as well.
And then where were we at on viewership? Thoughts or so?
I'm pretty sure we were hitting over 1,000 every now and then. Usually sitting around.
I'm pretty sure the AO reached 2,000 at least a couple of points. I could be wrong.
It did, yeah. I was going to say, I mean, regardless, I think both were at the times that they were streaming, they were the top EVE streams.
We're talking maybe like close to 2,000 people, maybe potentially.
No, I think the highest we had was 1,400 at some point.
Yeah, but like
games.
Yeah, but all in terms of all the teams, the people watching, support staff, and the staff like running the show and all that kind of stuff, right? You're probably hitting about the 2,000 mark, right?
It's a lot of people, and everyone talks about how this is such a tiny aspect of the community, and
it's just for like 50 people.
I'm perpetually frustrated by the idea that even a player-run tournament is just for this minority of the community that loves competitive gameplay, as if I don't want to bring this up, but
and the idea
I think you can bring it up because you can actually.
But here
the only thing that makes a real Eve player is people that actually participate in voting at the CSM and people that actually follow or have at least a peripheral interest in stuff like the tournament. If you have no interest in these things, you are borderline a dirty casual. There, I said.
Okay, I wasn't going to go with that. I wasn't going to go with that, but what I was going to say is that we have a lot of people across the board interested in tournaments, wanting to run them, wanting to participate in them, wanting to engage in watching them. Like, fuck you. The tournament scene is a lot larger than you think it is. And I'm gonna go there, and I'm sorry, Swift, but here we are. When we're talking about a player, a peak concurrent user base of 18,000 players on average, fucking even 1,000 of them, even 1,000 of them interested in tournaments is 1,000 of them that are playing until November. And but fuck you all if you don't accept that.
That you find it controversial, and I shouldn't have said something like that. But I do believe it's a valid point when we're talking about what EVE Online is, and I think I would like to, even though Swift has now no longer got his Elise name on, but seriously, a player that is disinterested in EVE Wars and EVE long-term historical politics and all that stuff, and doesn't have an interest at all in AT, and doesn't have an interest in the CSM. Isn't it fair to at least say this is a new bro that has not really realized what this game is about?
I think saying that they are not part of the community or shouldn't be part of the community or like some way are a lesser person of the community because they're not playing, what you consider to be the true EVE experience, it is basically watering down what EVE Online should is, because EVE Online should be a lot of things to a lot of people, whether it directly or indirectly affects the game or the game environment as a whole. I don't think should really be something that defines it as being EVE or not EVE.
EVE is,
we always talk
17
about
different games in a trench coat, really, and pretending to be one, right? So it's okay if people aren't happy with the Alliance tournament. It's okay to not compete in the Alliance tournament. It's okay to completely ignore the Alliance tournament. But I just do want to iterate one thing really quickly, because I have a feeling some people may have this lingering thought in their back of the head. When it comes to the Alliance tournament, you guys heard about the amount of work that CCP Aurora put in and planning that went in to put this event on. This was by no means like, oh, players are mad, let's give them something to be happy about moment. This is the culmination of months and months of planning, and the reason it got released when it did is to give the teams as much heads up and notice as possible, so they can participate in the way that they are accustomed to participating in.
I mean,
I think my point is that when you're talking about in every other game, right, people always talk about end level game and what to do when you have conquered the normal game. And to me, in EVE Online, the things that makes something that makes it so completely unique is that the end level in EVE is these things that are not gameable. It's not something that you can just face roll your way to. You can't face roll yourself through a big war conflict. You can't face roll yourself or even credit card yourself into and competing and participating in tournament stuff. These things are so EVE, right? It's these things that even to someone as veteran as me, I find the whole tournament stuff like wizardry. It's like it is. These people are amazing magicians in what they do, and the fact that this thing is back is maybe the best piece of news for quite a few years for someone like me.
Oh yeah.
Well, and that's exactly the point of having it, right? It is for the people that are excited by the tournament to be able to have something to be excited about again. It is, I think I'm super biased, but I think it's a super fun event. I love competing in it. I love watching it. I love, just all aspects of it. And, if that opens the door for at least one other person, then great. We've done a good job.
Yeah. And the other thing is, I think there's a lot of people mad out there right now because they see this announcement for the AT and they think, oh yeah, they're going to stop working on everything else. That's not the case. Okay, as far as I know,
never the case. As we've said already on the show today, actually, and I want to be very clear about this. As we've said on the show already today, as CCP Swift has mentioned, as CCP Aurora has mentioned, this is them doing the tournament project thing in their spare time. Exactly. This is not taking away from other EVE Online development. And so...
this is definitely a community project, right? It's not a...
you have to as Aurora had said, or the teams that are working on things. Team Talos, Team Ra, various other teams as well. I'm not going to list them all, but they're all still working on EVE Online. The tournament is a community-focused thing that the community team are working on because they love tournaments. Yeah, and I don't blame them. I could not blame them.
As Aurora had said, like, you know, she's been working on, like, you know, on coding to make things work. Like, if CCP was basically taking people off of developing EVE Online and off of those projects that they of developing various different things for EVE Online, you know, in the future, then, you know, Aurora wouldn't have to do, you know, the coding that she's kind of been learning and doing, kind of thing. Like, she would have, you know, a coder dedicated to doing it. Like, but she doesn't. So, you know, that entirely invalidates that entire idea of, like, you know, oh, CCP is pulling people off and, you know, not concentrating on, you know, the core game. Like, that's totally invalidated by the simple fact that, like, you know, the community team that's doing the AT is doing everything regarding the AT.
I mean, you know what? I'm going to indulge the audience for a second and acknowledge that there are a number of people in the chat and in the wider EVE audience, and Swift, you're going to hate me for this in a second, but here we go. There's a number of people who are asking about carrots, and there are a number of people who are asking about raw communication. Now, you mentioned in a forum post that you were working on a communication that would address various aspects of player concern that aren't tournament related, be it scarcity, be it the ESS changes that are incoming that have also been subject to devlog this week. You know, there's a lot of things that players are concerned about. Can you even give us a rough timeline on when we can see an update from CCP on this, just to satiate our
I don't want to
viewers.
I don't want to overpromise, right? But it is coming soon, without a little trademark on the soon. It's just actually soon. And it isn't the ESS blog. That is just a blog by itself. So that's something completely different. I also, while I'm talking about this, I don't want to deflect too much, but the reserve bank keys are something that people have been kind of excited and anticipating, and that is definitely something that's currently sitting on Singularity. Like, there's an entire ESS overhaul that is a lot of really enjoyable content, new content for small and medium gangs to kind of fight over, which I think is something that everyone wants in EVE.
I mean,
get ready to experience chaos and horribly broken design, but the visuals is amazing.
That's all. That's a wonderful opinion, Caleb. Thank you. But I do want to just vaguely question a little bit harder on that, Swift. You know, you say it's coming soon. Are we talking the next 2 months? Are we talking the next 4 weeks? Could you give us even
within this quadrant?
Within this quadrant, so by the end of August.
Is that when the quadrant ends? I don't know.
I honestly, I don't know when this quadrant ends, because the quadrants haven't been. I hate to break this to you, CCP Swift, but the quadrants haven't been specifically 3-month segments. So I don't know when this quadrant ends. but I'm trying to give you some breathing room here with the end of August.
Okay, I mean that's fine. If it's the end of August, if that's the deadline you're giving me, then yeah. I will say that I could come up here and say anything. Like I could just say a bunch of hollow words and it would be meaningless, and that would be a huge disservice to the people who want to know more about EVE Online and the people who are curious about the issues that are plaguing EVE Online, be they perceived or real, right? So I'm not going to be able to just. I'm not going to sit here and say I can do this, but I can sit here and say you that it is coming in a timely manner.
You know what?
Hopefully the players will be able to see sooner rather than later.
On that topic, I think I'm happy to take whenever this quadrant ends than a specific deadline at that point. There we are.
Seems cool. That seems fair enough.
For the audience, CCP Swift saying that we will see an update or a communications update from the team by the end of the quadrant. There you have it.
Don't worry, Swift. He does this to everybody.
Would I ever hold people to a timeline?
You always hold everybody to account for everything that they say.
He's already sharpening his knife. Can't you hear it?
Even if it's in passing, even if it's sarcastic, like that's just
text too.
Yeah, exactly. See.
I have no comment on all of this.
You thought
we're coming.
You thought his name Dirk was actually a name?
We're actually
just because I think it's
sentiment that he's going to use to fucking kill you.
Right? No. My name comes from an undervalued, underrepresented sharp implement. There is no correlation between my name and my holding people to account for things.
I'm trying, Sikandar. It's 2 minutes to the top of the hour, by the way, guys. So I'm gonna go down the list for your last things. Like if there was anything that you wanted to say that you didn't get to say, or any little thing that you wanted to point out that we never covered, just now's your time. So Caleb.
Final thoughts.
Yeah,
my final thought is that even though I have noticed a horrible decline in the PCU and everyone is screaming that the game is dying, I can say that having looked around a little bit, I don't actually think that EVE is going to suffer the same fate as World of Warcraft.
Okay, Swift. Do you have anything that you wish to say? Anything you wish to comment about? Anything at all? If you don't, then that's cool.
Sorry, my headset broke. Was that one for me?
It's just a
thought, whatever you want to say about the show in general, or anything that you want to throw out to the community. Just your one last thing.
I will say EVE Online is incredibly fun to play. I played last night with Brisk and Nominate and Merkel Chan. We went on a roam and got a great fight. I'm watching Bjornby take out an amazing, weird fleet comp of all Zappy boys right now.
Perfect for him.
Absolutely, EVE is a fun and lively place. I strongly advise for people to go out and enjoy themselves. Right, do what you find fun, and that's something that you'll always find fun. As pith and crappy as that sounds.
Awesome. Dirk?
Honestly, we've spent this entire show talking about tournaments and things like that, and I didn't expect it to go that way. But certainly, I'm so hyped to see tournaments come back to EVE Online on an official level rather than just the player-run situations that we've been dealing with, and I'm really, really interested to see what happens when we see the rules get dropped on Monday. It's just going to be...
I'm really excited.
It's going to be a ton of fun.
Well, because I think the players are going to have, like you said, people are going to have fun with it. It's going to be an exciting new thing for that group to do. And it's not meant to be a cure-all for everything that's going on at EVE Online. It is exactly what it is, just this fun little event. And we hope you guys have fun with it too.
Nice. Where are we at? General Stargate.
Yeah, I mean, my own final thoughts is, really looking forward to the Alliance tournament. If you're interested as an individual pilot, as Aurora said before she left, hop onto the Alliance Tournament Discord. There is looking for teams set up for individuals that are interested in getting in. Hop on there, say that you're looking for a team. You might get in one. If not, you can always create your own.
Discord link in Twitch chat.
Thank you very much. And yeah, also if you're interested in potentially being a commentator analysis, we're going to be looking for those particularly soon. There will no doubt be an announcement for that later. Yeah, as I say, looking forward to what's to come and participating in it.
Sweet. Softsim.
Yay. Well, first of all, I want to thank CCP Aurora, CCP Swift, General Stargazer, and Wingnut Cross to come on this kind of short notice and talk about tournament stuff.
It was absolutely short notice. They had like 2 days worth of notice to figure this out.
Do it anytime. Thank you very much for having us.
On the other hand, I'm pretty sure next week we will be back complaining about the same things we always complain about. So if you missed that this week, next week we will be doing that again. This time it's just tournament stuff. So thank you for coming.
Yeah, and Wingnut Cross.
I just want to say tournament, the AT has always been my goal, whether it's going to be as a pilot or a commentator. The moment I saw it before I even played E, I was like, this is what I got to do. This is the best of the best at every level. So I just want to, I'm glad to see it come back because it's now my chance to be there somewhere. And I'm really, really hoping this is my moment. I want to be in a team. I want to win a match. Come on.
That'd be good.
So next week, are we going to be wearing bandit masks and talk about the banks?
You need to be in Guy Fawkes masks, not bandit masks.
Oh my god, they are horrible, and all the money goes to the wrong corporation, so let's not.
What about you, Mac? Any final thoughts?
Not so much really, but I'm glad that touch wood, that my internet's kind of like held up over the I mean, it didn't die, but it was sketchy definitely at certain times. But just glad that was that it didn't die or went super sketchy.
I think it was Swift that called Branson and asked him to fortify your service.
I'm glad.
Yeah, I'm good. We're Twitter mutuals, I think. So I mean, I just got that.
They're like that.
I do want to just reiterate again before we sign off. Thank you very much to CCP Swift and CCP Aurora, specifically CCP Aurora for putting this all together and making sure that we could have an Alliance tournament again, and then obviously CCP Swift for just throwing the support wherever necessary. And then thank you very much.
My role so far has just been being alive in a pulse, and it's been the best.
We appreciate you for being alive and having a pulse. All right.
Just again, we need seriously, if you get a chance to really thank Aurora for all of this, because over a year that she has done absolute god tier work. If you have any interest, even in the spectacle of the AT, thank Aurora for the endless work she's put in on her own time. We wouldn't be here, legitimately.
Yeah. Player tournaments would not exist without CCP Aurora. Soth and I would not, well, Soth herself specifically, but Soth and I would not have managed to put on the Anger Games without CCP Aurora's support. Even T would not have made the Alliance Open without Aurora's support. It's been a ride, and she has been a stalwart in all of that. But specifically today, thank you to our CCP guests. Thank you to General Stargazer. Thank you to Wingnut Cross. We've been Push to Talk, and we will see you all next